All right, we are talking about primarily the NASCAR slate and the NFL slate tonight, which is the Truck Series at Bristol, and then the NFL Showdown stuff. But I do see I've had some people ask me questions about the MLB um, slate, and people wanted to. What is it? Sorry, I gotta respond to this guy really fast here. Um, this is not DFS related. They're asking if I would talk about the MLB slate, um, and what I do and everything really fast. Let me go ahead and do that here. Sorry about that. If you could discuss the pitcher you'd like for MLB, I'm going to show you exact here. Hold on. We'll get MLB out of the way because it's literally just like having no fucking idea what the hell I'm doing, right? I'll go over and show the tools on how I use on how I use the tools, right? We'll just here. All right. So first off, does let's see, does this even what the hell? Oh wait, hold on. Let me I forgot I did not have thousands in my account since I got all these stupid NFL slates tonight. So let's go ahead and let's see what's going on in the MLB streets today. I haven't looked at anything. Clearly, I will say I did. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do for MLB. I did some of the higher dollar stuff. That's League of Legends. Yikes. Um, where were we at? So this was yesterday. Like I'm trying. I don't know, man. MLB is clearly difficult, right? I think I entered 70 yesterday, and I only had like 18 cash or whatever, right? So I got like half back. So like I'm still very much experimenting with MLB and stuff, right? But I would at least do what I do or what I'm attempting to do on a much grander scale. I don't even know when does this even thing starts. 5:40. I didn't know it was that close. That was top of the hour. Um, all right, let's uh, let's let's figure out what we need to do here. Uh, what's that? Yeah, we'll do 58. Why not? Or 59 in total, right? All right, so let's and yet again, if you want access to now yet again this is MLB, right? I know nothing about this, right? But these are our prices if you want access to our stuff, pay dirt stuff, Saber Sims stuff as well. Now, James offers projections for this as well, but due to the time constraint that we have here for 30 minutes, usually I would go through and at least take a gander at that. And I haven't also these are not, or it could be. Maybe these are lines I'm playing. I don't know. I entered these earlier today in case I wasn't able to get home. Right. These are just all the lines that I have entered. We'll talk about that as we get towards the MLB slate and stuff. But let's go ahead and take a gander at what potentially is going on. So first and foremost, as this loads here, let's take a look at some of the tools that you have here, especially for me. As I said, I don't know baseball stuff. So let's go ahead and look at the projection. What I want to do first is I actually want to look at the stacks that are being projected quite well here and stuff by Sheets Value Score, and we're seeing that Cleveland, San Diego. I don't even know the full names, right? But it's looking like Cleveland, San Diego, Philly, and Washington are the highest Sheets Value stacks, which typically lines up to being pretty good, right? Obviously, we have Goldie's projections, which were last updated, at 435, and then we have Sheets of stuff, which I think was roughly around the same time, actually slightly before. So for this instance, typically I use whatever was updated last between these, or usually I do Sheets. But for this one, we're going to go ahead and look at Goldie's stuff here, and then also I would, oops, if you're not going to be able to late swap, that's not the right slate. Nice. If you're not going to late swap, there's very little point in doing literally anything related to DFS if you're not there to be there and stuff. Let me make sure this is going through here. Okay, cool. It is. I want to make sure we were live, sharing the things here. Okay, what's going on here? Like I said, you're talking pitchers. I mean, I'll talk pitchers about as much as I can talk pitchers because Lord knows I don't know literally anything about baseball. So right off the bat, typically we have all the lineups in, right? So that's good. Duh. I'm sure it's basic, 101 or whatever. The only stacks that I do are the 5s and then the 4-4, which actually I've been experimenting more and more with removing the 4 since I late swap so much in these. Which can we late swap? Yes, we can. We have a window between the Mets and the Colorado game and stuff. What I've been doing recently is only doing the 5 stacks if I know I'm going to be late swapping and stuff. Because one, I want to have the stacks that I want, right? And also, well, not stacks I want, whatever stacks I'm going to get. Also, I have something in my eye that's driving me crazy. And then also, typically, whenever I late swap anyway, I notice that when you're late swapping, you kind of want to keep your teams, a 5-3 or whatever, right? But I find that when I just late swap to stuff or whatever, I end up having 4-2s, 3-3-2s, even trying to not get those. And so what I'm trying to do to get around that is just start strictly with 5-5s, and then if I end up with 4-4s and 4-3s due to late swapping, I'm more okay with that versus starting with 4-4s and 4-3s and then ending up with builds that are giving me like these 3 stuff because I don't necessarily want that, right? Let's go ahead and check and see if Goldie's projections has everybody in. Sometimes there'll be a late scratch and stuff between all, and I'm also looking at sheets of stuff too to make sure that we have everybody in who's playing. Lou Ringifano is projected for 0 in SaberSim. Sheets and Goldie still have an ownership for him as well, so we're going to go ahead and remove him since that may have been updated since Sheets did his projections and since Goldie did his projections. But at this point, I think we're all good. Oswald, whatever. Projected for 0 in SaberSim, so we're going to make sure he's removed. This is the only thing that I do here. Sebastian, yet again, 0. I guess these are the Angels. Yeah, this is the latest night, or the latest one. Let's go ahead and make sure we don't have anybody else still in. Okay, so it's looking pretty decent. Okay, it's looking fine. All right, so and then we're going to run them. I had questions earlier. People were asking me, do I run rules? And I specifically don't make rules. I know SaberSim had an update today that removed any saved rules that you might have had in your account. I never make any rules. I just manually do that. Now, obviously, it'd be much harder in MLB, but for like NFL and stuff, I don't run any rules. For NASCAR, I don't run any rules or anything like that at all. I just build. I go through, find the lineups that I want. Oh, I forgot to remove. Well, that was a pitcher. We're fine there. Let's see. How much time do we have? We have 28 minutes. Plenty of time for MLB. Okay. What's going on? I see Danny is talking. Who do I like for receiving yards? I would like Terry. McLaurin had a terrible week 1. We'll discuss that game in a moment. Also, I'm very sad that I'm missing the ARCA race because this is my 3rd favorite ARCA race of the year. But I'm going to be very high on Terry today just because he underperformed so much and he's expected to not be owned at all. What's going on, AD? Thank you very much for hopping in, for being here, for providing me practice data because I wasn't able to pull it today. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, no, dude, I wanted that in the bank account. Fuck that, dude. I want to get that the hell out of my account and in my bank account and stuff. Let's see, finishing the MLB stuff. I don't mess with anything before. We're gonna run the Sims and the portfolio diversity tool here, and then past that, the only thing that I do at this point is go in and check and see if I have stacks I don't necessarily want. Now, yet again, I don't know anything about baseball. However, I have found that I same thing with like hockey as well. I found that if I play hockey, I end up, or SaberSim ends up giving me like goalies that are expected to lose, right? And it'd be funny if we don't necessarily have one here, I guess. So like when I look here, right, and I look at the pitchers that we have, so like Bryce Miller, batting for Seattle up against LA. We're looking at see, actually, this is one of the. I mean, I guess it's a 6-game slate, so we don't necessarily have that. I guess Randy, but I'm right there in the distribution and stuff. So we don't have a clear guy in here that I'm like uncomfortable with. Maybe Miami. I mean, that's a lot to carry with Miami to be over the field. But this looks uncomfortable for me, right? Having 44% this Ryan guy, and the field is expecting to be him at 19. Typically, I want to be over the field or at least with the field on guys up here. Not this guy, but I don't know ball. I don't know enough to override this on my end, right? A little fishy, but whatever. It's MLB stuff. It's like whatever. I'm pissing money away on dumber shit every day. I will say one thing that I do is, and I've always done this in any sport. If I have, how many lines do I have? If I have 59 lineups and I have somebody in 3 of them, okay. So now a lot of times, people will say if you have 100 lineups, you want 5% of this. Like let's say like captains, right? Let's say we're talking NFL, right? A lot of times you'll hear, oh, if you have 100 lineups, maybe you want 5 with the kickers. You want 5% kickers. You want 5% this. I don't know. I don't know about how good you are with stuff, but I know for a fact, maybe in NASCAR I've been able to do it, but in other sports, I've never been able to make up for if I have 100 lineups and only 5 have a kicker or whatever, have player A that is also underowned and they go off. I've never been able to have that 5% of lineups carry the entry fee for the other 95 that potentially did not cash. Okay. Yet again, that's just me. Okay. I like being aggressive or whatever, right? So I see here, I got Mackenzie Gore. He's 8,700 projected for 14 points, 15% ownership. Um, I don't know what these 3 lineups do for me in the grand scheme of things, right? I'm not saying you can't, have an optimal lineup here or whatever, right? But okay, we got 24 minutes, but I don't see what this gives me. So one thing that I always do, if I go in and I see, and I won't do it necessarily for players and stuff, but if I see for like pitchers, um, goalies in hockey or whatever, if I got a ton of lineups and I have you in 3, I don't know what this is adding to my true like upside. Like I don't firmly believe that these 3 lineups could make up for the $1,000 entry fee if they win. And if that's the point, if that's the case, I'm well under the field. I'm probably gonna get beat on the field if this guy does well. So one thing that I will do, not even looking, not even caring what exactly is going on here, I'm gonna remove Washington also. I'm gonna remove Gore also because the totals are so close together. I'm not gonna do it for the Cleveland guy because they're expected to win. But if it's a toss up here, I'm going to remove him. Let's same thing with what's up with the Mets here. I think I'm going to probably remove the Mets as well because 4% versus the field at 14. I don't know really what that adds to my stuff. Yet again, it's just what I do. Is it right, wrong? I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. Right? Those are just little quirks that I do. Now let's go ahead and look at the team stacks that we have. Who do we have? So when we looked at the this page earlier, who is expected to do well based on this stuff. So we have Cleveland, San Diego, Washington, Philly, LA, right? So who do I have the most exposure to at the moment? San Diego, LA, Washington, the Mets. Let's see where are we at here. So we have interesting going to the Mets here. We don't really see anything nuts. Normally, have I? Yeah, it's already gone through. Normally, I also what I did with the pitchers, I also do with the stacks. Okay, 5 I'm okay with, maybe I don't know, but it's a 6-gamer. So I'm not going to do anything with that. Typically, if it's more like if I have a ton of stacks towards teams, right, and then at the very bottom I have one lineup with whatever, right, I just get rid of those. Like I just don't. I have no faith in that one stack saving my night, right? So like, might as well get rid of them and hope I get more different exposure rates with current stacks that I have. 5-2, 5-3, 5-5. Yet again, I'm going to late swap and stuff here, specifically between these two games here. I might look at it in between these here and see what it's at, but whatever. We'll go from there. Who do I have the most of from a batter perspective? I always just look and see. So we have San Diego representing the stacks that we have here. Let me make sure I don't have anybody who might not be playing, which we don't. And there we are. We're done. No, literally nothing more than that. At least for me. Will it work? I have no earthly godly idea, right? But that's that's the baseball slate. I don't know, man. You're asking the wrong guy to do baseball stuff. Anybody else here? Okay, so let's move on to the truck race because obviously we have the NFL stuff later, right? So let's go ahead and get this up here. All right, so when we look at the practice laps, yet again, thank you, AD, for the data since I was driving around moving stuff today. So just obviously, we look at the guys who did the most. Obviously, Chandler Smith was able to get in 81 laps. Obviously, this is Bristol able to get a lot of laps and able to have a pretty good idea of what your car is going to do here, right? I'm hoping that I'm not missing too many crazy things in ARCA right now, but I would expect the general guys who we have seen at the top half of the field, excuse me, be the favorites to perform and run very well today. When we just look at the averages across the board, now granted at this point, now there's a lot of obviously we're looking at 15-second lap times. We still have some of these 19 still in here, right? I I'm fairly confident with the amount that I removed. I mean, you could argue that this 18 could potentially be keeping roads down and stuff, but you could argue this 19, which I mean, so many laps. I'm not really concerned about it. These guys are roughly in line of where they're at. I mean, I'm not too concerned about if these guys should be 3 or 2 spots higher, 3 or 4 spots lower, whatever. I'm fine with just generally where they're at, especially with where we have the entirety of our data points and stuff. When we look at the starting grid combined with where we're expecting to see people at, obviously your favorites for this race to win it should be Corey Heim, Lane Riggs, Chandler Smith, and Ty Majeski. Okay, when we look at Corey Heim, compared to Jake Garcia and stuff, you could argue that Jake might lead the first 5, 10, 20. I'd be kind of shocked if he led more than that. There should be a fairly high likelihood that Corey Heim can run him down and pass him and stuff. But Corey at 14,000, and this race being 250 laps, the highest lap count that we're going to see for a truck series race, I'm perfectly fine with playing Corey Heim quite heavily. When we look at this slate and stuff, right, we're only looking at 3,500 people in this slate. We don't have to get really crazy. We're 2 hours away from lock, and we're nearly filled on a majority of these contests. I mean, even the 4 is about to fill and stuff like that. So we don't really need to get that drastically different. The people who are going to project, well, as I said, your favorites are those 4 guys I mentioned. But when we're looking at people who are most likely going to stay up front and stuff, when we look at the amount of where everybody's kind of falling in line and in the averages and stuff, outside of where I think Kligerman's going to perform better, Infinger's going to perform better, that stuff, everybody should be where they're at. And Parker Kligerman, we've seen Kligerman start in the 20s at Bristol before and finish in the top 12. Kligerman performs very well, especially in this 75 car, especially when you have dead crew member Juju on the side of that car tonight. I would envision Kligerman to perform pretty well in this race. I do have concern about Raja, Andres, even Corey Day and stuff. Same thing with Giovanni. We've been playing a lot of these guys at the intermediates and stuff, and we had a really good race this last week. But I mean, Bristol is going to be Bristol really separates based on the equipment that you're in and the skill gap, and the skill gap for a race like this is pretty huge. So I would actually not be shocked if we see Raja Andres Day and Giovanni, fighting to potentially stay on the lead lap, but if not, get lapped in this race and stuff. When we look at where the field is expected to go, which let's go ahead and oops, let's see if SaberSim has their stuff up yet for NASCAR. I actually haven't ran my lineups yet since I was obviously Q just in not too long ago. I had to get all this stuff squared away. So let's go ahead and look at where the field is going here. So we do have, and you see my projection here as well. But I'm going to run what SaberSim has since we don't have ownership, right? I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to switch to Classic just only because Classic loads faster and it's an easier visualization for the videos. I would advise you heavily advise you to not use Classic mode if you have money on your lineups. I'm just using this because it loads faster and it's easier to see the lineups that you are potentially playing. So I'm going to go ahead and unclick gray and then just go ahead and give them a little bump in ownership just so I can run this without affecting any of the mean projections that SaberSim has given them. And just right off the bat, yet again, I haven't seen this either. So they have Corey Heim, Lane Riggs, Chandler Smith as your top four. I would agree very much in that, with Majeski being the fifth guy here. I thought he'd be probably the fourth favorite and stuff. So let's go ahead and see what lineup SaberSim is building. And then I'm going to assume, at least for a race like this, we're probably going to be very similar and stuff. You can see we're not going to be that drastically different if we sort by either one of these. Obviously there's slight changes and stuff, but still, for the most part, we're pretty much lined up with where things should be. Like I said, I think Kligerman should probably be the best play on the slate. I'm going to go ahead and let this finish loading here to what is it? Just so we can see the line sets given up what is going on here. If we have any more questions and stuff. I'm doing well, Eagles. Doing well. Picked to dominate the plate race, Corey Heim. It's kind of the same thing with Larson. Last week at Gateway and stuff. Whenever Larson's going to be, when he's not going to be like 40% owned, I'm just going to slam Larson. If somebody is projected to be way better than the field, like Corey Heim here, I'm going to just slam Corey Heim and build from there, especially with this many fast laps and laps led around. He can lead for 30 minutes and have, 130 laps led and easily, like 85 fast laps and stuff. Let's see. Yeah, truck race should be fun. Chandler should be good. Yeah. I think for the most part, and we'll kind of check this when we get done looking at SaberSim stuff. We'll try and look at different builds and stuff. Obviously, one thing I like, by the way I do stuff, you can see that I have a pretty significant drop off at the bottom, so I shouldn't really waste my time, or it shouldn't waste my time with playing a lot of these guys here because they should project so bad. I like Spencer Boyd. I think Boyd is very much in play today, but like really, there's a high likelihood the Reum trucks park. A real high likelihood that Norm Menning parks and stuff. I don't really know if there's much value that we can really work with outside of Spencer Boyd, and so we should be building fairly in the mid range today. And when we look at the starting grid, we could either do this on mine or whatever. You're going to see that yet again. I'm concerned about Giovanni. That's why I mentioned Giovanni. That's why I mentioned Raja. That's why I mentioned Day. But yet again, Tanner Gray starting 17th, 75. I'd probably say that's a good play. Brent Cruz starting 15th, 72 probably seems like a good play. Crafton starting 20th, Park Kligerman starting 25th. Like we should have. We're running into a situation in the Truck Series right now to where the value, the guys in the back of the field are so bad they are not in play. Okay, so we have Heim at 14, so there might be a difference. But if the value field if the value area is unplayable, you really can't use them in order to pay up for people. So you have to, instead of doing like expensive guy, 5K guy to even out, we're having to do a lot of expensive guy and then a ton of 6 and 7K plays, right? That's what we're seeing recently. And so because of that, I think Matt Mills, Jack Wood, Connor Jones, like that, and then 7K guys in the mid range. If we can finish loading here, that'd be great. Yet again, SaberSim, very intense on browsers. Okay, now A lot of people, want to be like, hey, if you don't have a Mac, I don't know what you're doing. While you're playing DFS on a Mac, it's also if you don't have a decent processor, right? I got a gaming computer here, right? I got an i9 12900K processor. This thing is fast, okay? I have this and like 12 tabs open on this window. It's fine. I find that a lot of people have been having issues with SaberSim because you guys are either building shit on your mobile phone, which God willing, you will stop doing that, or you are using like, a 2012 Chromebook with like no processing power at all. SaberSim is very intensive on the browser. Sometimes slates won't load. Sometimes your contests won't load when you upload them. Sometimes you have issues adding builds, building builds, and stuff like that. That's because SaberSim is a very, very intense program that's running through your browser, i.e., Google Chrome. Google Chrome already eats up a shitload of processing power, right? If your computer's slow, it's going to run slow. You also combine that with how intense SaberSim servers are being used during Sundays, during Thursday night games, during Monday night. Like all this stuff is adding up to please build on a computer and please build on a computer that's good, right? Okay, so we look at the projected score that SaberSim has. I want to see some builds really fast that they have here, which we got Corey Heim, LaJoy, Chandler Smith, Kligerman. I'm going to guess that they're going to want to be punting quite a lot here. I don't know why Sutton is not in here, but whatever. Very little Jake Garcia. Interesting. So I'm doing this just to take a gander of what is being built by SaberSim, right? So we're seeing that a lot of Clayton Green, a lot of Norm Benning. Now, again, this is projected score here. I do want to run the Sims to see what changes here. Usually there's correlation between their higher projected lineups and what is being shown in the Sims and stuff, but we can go ahead and not or not, but I forgot what I was going to say. We're gonna see if there's anything like that once this is running. Then I'll run my stuff and kind of see what it's spitting out here and stuff. Yeah, FanDuel projections tonight for what game? I don't know what you are referring to. There are a lot of sports going on at the moment. All right. Well, while that loads, let me go ahead and see what the heck is up with Arca. Is there any crazy nonsense going on in Arca right now? Let me mute that. Very quickly, this is how I view everything. I just have my buddies streaming in Discord, right? So I watch everything. 80 to go in Arca. Literally nothing's going on. So pretty unfortunate there. So I guess I didn't miss much there. We're still running stuff, which yet again is fine. They're being slammed right now. We got 9 minutes for MLB starts. Also, and then I'm a dumbass. That's why we don't have ownership nor contest selected, so we can't do that. That's why I was running so long. So if we just use the predetermined stuff, it's still seeming like, well, we're not punting nearly as much. Let's go ahead and see what these lines are looking like. Spencer Boyd, as I said, going to be a good lineup here. Probably going to contend. We're probably going to see quite a lot of. I would just advise to not play any unnecessarily like Maggio at 55. I think you should just play Boyd and move on from there. Interesting. Let's see the main difference between their stuff and my stuff here. We'll get an idea of how I want to and we'll name these projections some AI jargon so I get flagged for being a robot, and we'll see what is being built there. Let's see what you guys are saying. I use as stated, I use SaberSim stuff, but I'm not concerned about the actual player projection. I just care about ownership. SaberSim's built for basketball, NFL, baseball. I'm perfectly fine using their stuff. But Goldie has projections up for both DraftKings and FanDuel. Sheets does the same thing. But I just use the standard SaberSim stuff since I'm doing so many things on my own. For NFL, I'm perfectly fine with their data. I'm not concerned about it. But yes, if you have, wow, this loads. And it is stated here. I believe the core only offers the projections that we make, that Goldie makes. So that's baseball, football, basketball, and hockey. So like no college football or esports on this one. I believe the starter, you'll have to check in the continued descriptions here. I believe the starter has more of the they have the start. I believe the SaberSim starter package has all the SaberSim projections as well, and then obviously the Ultimate has all the SaberSim projections as well. So you can always get FanDuel projections, or rather just the SaberSim baseline projections on either of these packages and stuff. Let that go here. See what's going on here. Still 6 minutes before lock. And then obviously inactives will come out for NFL in about 10 minutes at the moment, because I'm doing the show. I'm going to be walking through what I'm doing here. I'm not going to wait for that. Yet again, I usually rerun my lines about 10 minutes before lock. So like whoever is ruled out an hour and a half before, like, really doesn't concern me. I'm gonna rerun stuff enough as is. More so, what I want to focus on is what the receivers are, and so on and so forth and stuff here. So we'll let this just keep building and stuff. Now you might argue, why am I letting it build 5,000? I just want to see what the pool is with all my stuff. We can go ahead and into here. We have enough to work with here. I want to see what the differences are between what my stuff shows and what SaberSim stuff is running. So let's go ahead and look at the top. 1,000 projected, and we almost made it. We almost made it without my keyboard dying, because I haven't been here and it's been in a dark room. There we go. We're back. All right, so Horion Kligerman, Jake Garcia. I him at 78. I'm willing to take a shot on Jake Garcia. I think I have Jake for like 40 points or whatever. Obviously, that's me giving him laps led and finishing the top 7. But I think that's worth it. But do whatever you want with Jake Garcia, right? But yeah, I'm not really punting at all until we get to Spencer Boyd. So yet again, as I figured, my stuff is going to be very heavy in the 7K range and stuff. Very little on the rest of the field. I really don't want to play any of these bad guys here. No Caden. Interesting. I know we had Philip was talking about getting a decent amount of Caden and Bailey Curry. For whatever reason, Caden at 45 or 41-45 is not showing up in my stuff. But Bailey Curry is. But yeah, I would, and all the people I've talked about so far are probably the people I want to target and stuff. Yeah, again, I still got to handbill all this stupid nonsense, but that's this is where my stuff is showing right now for the truck race. Okay, so if there's any more questions regarding that, we can touch on them. After I guess we do the NFL stuff, because I'm going to move over to that, and then I got to go and build my truck race and all that stuff. So this is the stuff I ran earlier today, right? So these are the captains that I'm focusing on. Yet again, these are dummy lineups or placeholder or whatever. I'm not concerned about what the ownership was at the moment. I'm going to redo this as well. And yet again, we have inactives coming out soon. But when we look, the reason why, okay, now this slate has a situation where we have a lot of people who are going to be under-owned on captain, and we have a situation where we can leverage, or at least for me, yet again, I've explained in detail what I am envisioning to do for the NFL slates this entire year, and when I'm willing to chase burning money and stuff. And I was talking to a friend of mine this week. He was kind of asking, how my plays change and stuff. I know him well enough to where I was kind of indulging him and answering more stuff than normal. But very similar to me at plate races at Talladega. I'm just gonna build for or plate races, in NASCAR in general. I'm stacking from the back in general, right? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I know the hit rate or whatever. I'm standing my ground. I think the worst thing you can do for DFS is, especially, well, I guess in anything, but is not sticking to your process. Now, yet again, do you know if your process is good or not? That you have to determine that on your own, right? But if you don't see a process through, I don't know. Like, I don't think you're gaining anything. And what I mean by that is, yet again, okay, I don't play quarterbacks. I don't play running backs in the captain. Now, that's how I used to play single entry. I'm just expanding my mentality that I used in single entry to MME. Obviously, it worked well, but is that an anomaly? Is that a small sample size? I don't think it is. I've been very happy with the performances of my approach so far, even removing the win on Sunday. Um, what I mean by bouncing back from your approaches is, say if you play wide receiver and captain for a week, 2 weeks, right, and they lose and it doesn't hit. I can fully understand being pissed off and saying, "Oh, f that! I'm playing quarterbacks. They're hitting a lot. I'm going to go to quarterbacks and stuff." And then maybe quarterbacks, maybe they keep hitting, maybe they don't, whatever the case may be. But if you see an avenue where I think there's potential edge, like straight up, the plate racing mentality has been nobody really 150 maxes the entire back of the field, right? So I did at Daytona. I'm doing it when I'm able to. My process is, more of, a hypothesis and stuff, which I think would be if you played, and both situations can be true, if you played 100% quarterback in captain through the entirety of an NFL season on every showdown contest, you would probably end the year in profit with how much the quarterbacks hit. Now, that hit rate might be negated by the duplication rate that those lineups have and the um, potential upside that those lines have. But I think you would end up on the profit. You would end up being profitable through 16 weeks, 250 games, or whatever, how many single entry game or how many showdown games we have. I think you would end the year in profit if you just played quarterback every showdown, right? On the same scale of that, I think you would end the year in profit if you played wide receivers in the captain for every slate. You're going to understand it, sometimes they're going to hit, sometimes they're not. Is the hit rate going to outperform the non-hitting rate? For me, that has already happened. I will not be able to plow through $140,000 this year, right? So I'm gonna be committed to taking advantage of where the leverage is. Okay, so now that that's been stated, we have a ton of leverage spots in the wide receiver position today, right? We have Romeo, who is, from what I've heard from people who know sports, from the sports talking people, he's wide receiver number one mispriced, right? We have Terry McLaurin, who performed very poorly last week um, in the first game of the season, right? Yet again, uh, people who play DFS are very much, a game log people. They tilt. They have long memories. I would advise you to not have a long memory. In fact, yet again, go about like how I just played baseball. I have no idea who I have. I have no idea who I played yesterday. I'm just going through the process. Terry McLaurin is a great player, right? He's looking to practically have no ownership in the captain position today. That's insane, right? I want to be over that. I want to be over, the huge discount that we have on Rubio here. I also want to be over, we have a lot of question marks over Jalen Reed. Is he injured? How is he playing? So on and so forth. Projected at this point, yet again, this was this morning, yet again, an accident will come out or whatever, right? 2.68% for Jalen Reed and the captain. That's kind of nutso, right? Who's the other guy? Debo Samuel. I think his hit rate is probably higher than 6%. I'm actually the least interested in Debo Samuel out of the 4 individuals that I've spoken of, but that's why, now typically I'd like to run 3 or 2 captains. This will be a situation to where, since ownership is so low for these 4 individuals, I'm going to be using Rubio, Debo, Terry McLaurin, and Jalen Reed. Because of that, I'm probably going to be very, very high on the quarterbacks and stuff. And then, whatever happens with Josh Jacobs and everybody else is just whatever's going to happen, right? Those are the people that I want to be playing and stuff. Yet again, all the cheap values will be either whittled out or taken out, due to inactives and stuff once we get closer to the slate starting. But that's where I'm going to go, especially with the high likelihood of Daniels being the highest scorer today, and or Jacobs and Love. Yet again, where DFS is trying to find leverage on the field. So there's a real. You can see what it's at right now. I'm like, whatever, whatever the X amount you go from 7 to 24 on Rubio this morning. That's what I'm at. I'm Fields playing Debo 6% captain. I have him in 35 right now. Yet again, these are lineups I just threw together earlier, like this morning, in case I wasn't able to get home or whatever. But I'm probably going to fairly be at least 5 or 4x on these guys in the captain position on both DraftKings and FanDuel, just because they're just not going to be owned. I will happily take that um, leverage on the field. I'm happy to chase that. That's where I'm going to go. So at this point, yet again, I think Sheets may have been free, but Bobby returns next week. So him and I will be doing a lot of shows together. Same thing with Sheets. Whenever we're here, or whenever he's here, it might be 3 of us talking about these showdown slates. And so I probably won't be showing my screen or going into this much detail on these people, or my process and thought process through these slates. I'll probably just be answering questions or who do I like or whatever, right? But those are the people that I'm going to go with. Yet again, approaching these big slates like I do, or like I would with a single entry, is for me making it able for me to potentially play people that I would have missed in single entry, to try and make up for the fact that like I said, for example, let's say I play Debo, or let's say we have a Debo Samuel lineup, right? You have Daniels with it, and then those other 4 guys, you know, in single entry, you'd have to decide who those 4 guys are and stuff, and then there's probably one that's going to bust or whatever, right? By having 35% Debo Samuel as captain, which yet again, this is earlier and stuff, and he's actually my least favorite of the 4 guys I talked about. But having 34% of them in these lineups at the moment makes me able to have different combinations of those 4 guys in there. That's more so what I'm trying to get around and doing with my approach and stuff here. So anyway, though, that's my thoughts on the NASCAR slate. That's my thoughts on the football slate, and you even got to watch me throw money away on baseball. Did this thing even start yet? Let's check out the ownership on some of the early. So we we have a ton of Washington and Miami, right? I already know that. I mainly just want to go through and kind of see what we're looking at here. Yet again, we're going to late swap between primarily. I have half an hour. I might do it before these games start. Actually, I probably will, just because. So I try and late swap as much as possible. I forgot this one starts so early, and this is a 6:05 start. I try and late swap as many times as possible, because once you get more fixed ownership percentage, you can, you no longer have to guess of who the field is playing. Once you can account for crews, be it owned 9.1% in this contest, you can then rerun stuff with that ownership locked in, right? And then what the field is doing and stuff. So I would advise you to try and late swap as much as possible. And I know a lot of people hate basketball for that, but I am excited for basketball to get here, and I'm going to be sitting my ass in this chair, late swapping like a mother during this baseball season. I am actually really, really, really excited for baseball to get here and stuff. But anyway, I'm trying to just go through and just see, just very quickly, just to kind of eyeballing stuff here of how many lineups are actually in play right now or chasing off these games. This one obviously just has a pitcher, a lot of 5.56 pitchers, and then really nothing here other than some one-offs or whatever. So I have, and yet again, it's just me going through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, like 12 of the 56, whatever, heavily looking at, this first game, whatever. But yeah, that's mainly it. Those are my thoughts. If you guys enjoyed it, if you want to pick my brain more, you can do it in the Discord. If you want to join TrueDFS, and yet again, we didn't even go over pay dirt stuff. I mean, I typically don't show pay dirt's projections because Bobby and Sheets have been doing a lot of stuff with them, and so I kind of focus more on the SaberSim side. But yet again, more ownership and more data to look at for your sports. Anyway, past that, I think that's about it. Hopefully, you guys have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow for the Xfinity Series race at Bristol. See you guys later. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.